Welcome to Tea in 3C with Karen Hartglass and Gary DiMattei. Today's tea by Mudan.
Okay.
Cheerleys.
Speak a little more so I can hear you on camera.
All right. So we're here this evening or this afternoon or any time you want it to be, because there is no time. And we're going to be channeling the universe. I'm really ready to channel. How about you, Gary?
I'm ready to channel.
Ready to channel.
Here we go.
Okay, do we need a remote?
I'm the author of a popular pamphlet that has been around since 1991. It's called 101 Reasons Why I'm a Vegetarian. So we didn't use the word vegan back then, and I also wanted to communicate with people at that time who knew the word vegetarian. So I was trying to communicate with...
Now, I believe that when you see something that isn't right in the world, something that isn't just, you can't just sit back and do nothing. You have to speak out about it. You have to. And that's what my journey's been about when it comes to eating animals. It's not right. It's not right to exploit sentient beings. It's not right to cause pain and suffering. And when we're eating animals, we are causing pain and suffering. We may not be doing it directly, we're not doing the slaughter directly, but by eating them, we're supporting that type of activity.
And so throughout your whole life, you had no problem communicating that message?
No, and when I was
family
younger, at family dinner events or with my school friends, and even early in my career as an engineer with my colleagues, I was very outspoken about it, and I think I was a bit abrasive.
You were to me 20 years ago.
But so. You know, when you realize what's going on, it's so easy to be angry, and you just want to say, "Don't you get it? Look at what you're doing."
And do you think that's effective, though?
No, it's not effective.
So what you're saying is you learned.
So you learn over time that you have to communicate with love, with understanding, with compassion.
What about all these parades? Like, do you think they work?
Well, I think we need all kinds of tools to communicate this message, and I don't think people often get the message right away. They need lots of different images that coming before them. So a parade one day, maybe a soundbite on the news, books, pamphlets,
right.
Conferences.
So what's the concept of the parade, the Veggie Pride Parade, for example, here in New York? That's just to walk down the street, bang the drum, and say, hey, look at us, we've got Veggie Pride.
The Veggie Pride Parade started in Paris in early 2000, I think around 2002, somewhere around there. And for me, it was amazing when I first heard about this event, because I had lived in France in the early 90s. I had never met another vegetarian. And then I heard that in Paris they were having this protest, this parade. And I actually joined them at the Veggie Pride Parade in Paris in 2005. And it was a very powerful, emotional experience for me to see all these other people that believed in what I believed that were in Europe, because I had never seen them when I lived there. They were coming out. This was the Veggie Pride Parade. They were coming out of their closet. They were finding strength in numbers, getting empowered, and letting people know what was going on. The time that I was there was this very intense moment where 100 people lined up. They put these masks on as animals, and they played the sounds of animals screaming, animals
Wow.
from slaughterhouses. It was very, 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 well, it was intense. It was powerful.
What's
And-
interesting about the Veggie Pride Parade in New York, as far as I'm concerned, and other veg festivals that you and I have gone to and that you have participated in and told me about, and that I have seen for myself, is that everybody dresses up. There's a lot of costumes. There are people who are dressed as cows. They dress their children up as cows. There are nice people dressed in organic ketchup bottles, giving out free samples of cake. And it's a very fun, very upbeat atmosphere. But there are lots of speeches. I know that you gave a speech this last Veggie Pride Parade and have done so the last several years, which has been very effective.
I love
But
being here.
the overall feeling of the event is that it's for vegetarians and vegans to kind of come and talk about the good work that they're all doing, that you're all doing, that we're all doing. Occasionally you'll get someone that's curious, but for the most part, you're kind of preaching to the choir, right?
It is the choir, and it's a very friendly, positive audience.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's really necessary because it's an opportunity for a lot of activists who are feeling burned out and tired and frustrated to come together with like-minded people, get inspired, eat great food,
Right.
and just have a nice party.
And you can visit us at responsibleeatingandliving.com. I do a weekly podcast with the Progressive Radio Network on the Upper West Side called It's All About Food. And I love that title because I truly believe that everything that's going on around us is all about food. Okay. Very recently, I received an invitation from a company called Snyder Livestock. They are a cattle producing feedlot in Nevada, and they were having a panel on climate change, and they invited me to participate on this panel. I went as the lone vegan, and I spoke to over 250 cattle producers about the contributions of animal agriculture to climate change. And I did a number of months of intense research.
Okay, so tell us about an invitation that you received a few weeks ago, or how long's it been now? Several weeks ago, and how that was different than speaking to the choir.
I received an invitation from Lucy Snyder of Snyder Livestock in January. And at first I thought it was spam. But then I read the email more carefully and did some Google searching, and I realized it was for real. And she has a bull sale every year at her feedlot.
bull sale?
A bull sale.
They sell bulls.
They do, hundreds
Okay.
of them.
Right.
And at the weekend where they have this bull sale, she likes to have an educational event as well.
Okay.
And she decided this year to talk about animal agriculture's impact on climate change.
Do you have the email that Lucy sent you?
I do.
Would you read it?
Sure.
This is great.
Good morning, Karen. I operate a small feedlot in western Nevada. Each year, we hold a bull sale.
Bull sale.
The evening before the sale, we sponsor an educational event for the attending producers. This year, we are having a panel discussion regarding climate change. Participating in the panel are Stoller Lufrano, James Taylor, and Frank Mitloehner. Stoller recently completed the Climate Reality Leadership Training from Vice President Al Gore. James is a climate change skeptic, and Frank is a climate researcher. Would you be interested in representing your perspective on climate change and the contributions of animal agriculture to climate change on this panel? Although the crowd will be mostly cattle producers and will disagree with your philosophy, I can assure you that the discussion will be professionally moderated, affable, and the crowd will be courteous.
So basically what she just said there was, you're not going to be taken seriously. Nobody is really going to listen to you. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to lose your life. But would you like to come and chat with a bunch of cattle producers? Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I know you did. I was there.
One of the reasons I was really curious is I wondered why she asked me.
Okay, so
There's many vegan activists out there today. And so I asked her. And she
what did she
wrote
say?
and said, as to how I chose you, it was difficult to find a panelist from the more extreme green perspective. In spite of being very outspoken within a circle of supporters, most were unwilling to participate in this panel with an audience that is largely skeptical about the existence of climate change. I had dozens of emails ignored and a couple of pretty hostile refusals. You were kind of a long shot, partly because of your primary passion is probably more on the cooking and nutrition aspect and less on the environmental. But your statements in your website are very strong regarding the relationship between animal agriculture and climate change. So I thought you a viable candidate. Frankly, I was surprised at your acceptance. As we have emailed each other and I have looked further on your website, I have come to believe that you are a good people person who will be able to bring forth your point of view, relate well to the audience, and keep the discussion affable. And what I came to learn about Lucy was she was very sincere, very genuine. She really wanted us to visit the feedlot and get a tour, see the entire place, because she believed she was taking good care of her animals and that our opinion of animal agriculture would change. It didn't.
You literally locked yourself away and became a climate change expert.
This show is called It's All About Food, and it's very clear what I talk about. I talk about helping people transition to a healthy plant-based diet of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And there's lots of motivation behind this that we talk about over and over and over and over because it's better for your health. It's certainly kinder to the animals. And what we're going to dig into a lot today is what it's doing to the environment when we raise animals for food.
There are many scientists all around the world who are doing incredible work. And what I learned was pretty frightening.
So who were some of your can you say inspirations?
Well, I think my greatest inspiration was Robert Goodland, who unfortunately passed away the end of December.
You interviewed Robert Goodland on your show, didn't you?
He was one of the first people I interviewed, and one of the things that I regret was he said at the end of the interview that if I'm ever in Washington, D.C., I should join him for lunch, and I never did that.
The livestock production chain, the whole chain, from cutting the forest, burning it, raising livestock, slaughtering them, throwing all their guts in the river, all of the manure causing impact, transporting the frozen carcasses overseas, even flying them by aeroplane overseas, then cooking them, and disposal of the waste. All of that adds up to more than half of the total anthropic greenhouse gas emissions. And we were even more startled by our own conclusions.
Oh, there are just so many wonderful scientists, and the information is vast and varied, and some of it is very complicated reading and very difficult to digest. And what I had to do was feel very grounded and confident in the information that I wanted to transmit to this group. And originally we were told we'd have 20 minutes to give a presentation, and then we would have rebuttal and questions on the panel. So to take all of this very complicated scientific information and be able to pick out important points and communicate them in a way that would be understood in a very easy fashion in a short amount of time, and then come up with what I think are the solutions and communicate that to cattle producers was a tremendous challenge.
How did you get this thing funded?
Well, we had a Kickstarter project.
Yes, we
and
did.
we did the Lone Vegan Kickstarter project, and it was fun actually coming up with that project.
So we came up with a name.
The Lone Vegan.
Because you were the Lone Vegan.
Yep. Howdy! I'm Karen Hartglass with Responsible Eating and Living, and I'm here to give you an update on the Lone Vegan Kickstarter project. But I want to bring on my side dish, tofu. Come on in, tofu.
Thanks, teriyaki.
How about a high five? Thank you.
Ow. Tofu is soft. Please don't slap tofu high five that hard, teriyaki.
Okay, I want to give you an update now on the Lone Vegan Kickstarter project. We started this project just 1 week ago, and a few hours after we launched, we reached our goal of $2,000.
Congratulations and thank you to all the backers out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your support. Now, for the last week, we have been working really, really hard.
Boy, you have, that's for sure.
On preparing my talk that I will be giving to 200 cattle producers.
All by yourself, Lone Vegan?
As the Lone Vegan. And I'll be talking about animal agriculture's contribution to climate change.
Sure is hot out here.
At a big event in Nevada on March 8th.
We're going to walk to Nevada.
I think it's this one.
Oh, this way.
Yeah.
Some do go that way. I'll follow you.
Okay.
Anyway. When we got off the plane in San Francisco, it was almost like you were Dorothy in going into the land of Oz, only sort of in reverse, because New York, it's oftentimes called Oz. So, and there are a lot of vegan restaurants, and there are a lot of vegans and vegetarians, and so, I mean, you know, we feel very much at home in New York City. But going to cattle country from New York is kind of like going to Oz, and from Oz to Kansas, as opposed to
Right.
Kansas to Oz, because it's very weird how that sort of went in reverse.
We crossed the California border into Nevada, and things changed dramatically. We went from beautiful, lush forests to this barren desert, and we drove into Yerington. I knew nothing about Yerington.
And we stayed at the Yerington Inn, which was the only inn it looked like
It
they
looked
had.
like the only inn in town.
And across the street was a casino.
It was a combination casino, bowling alley, and conference center. That's
Right.
where the event was.
Casino, bowling alley,
This
and
was like a
conference center.
one-horse town. It was almost like a movie set of a ghost town.
It was like a Clint Eastwood film. It was like a spaghetti western. Only
Now,
without
Lucy had warned us that,
warned us.
she didn't think there would be any restaurants that
She didn't think
served
there would be any food.
any
for vegans.
vegan food. So we came with a big cooler of food.
Well, we found a grocery store.
Yeah, across off the main road was a very large, looked like a relatively new supermarket.
Shopping center kind of area.
And it was beautiful inside, and they had gorgeous produce, a lot of organic produce.
Yes.
And we went into the freezer case and found
Gardein.
Gardein vegan burgers.
We even took a picture of Karen looking at the Gardein, which you're probably watching right now. When we arrived in Yerington, we both had the same thought, and I think it was you that said, tofu?
Tofu? I have a feeling we're not in New York City anymore.
Right. Or maybe I said it. But I knew we felt pretty strange, and what was about to happen was nowhere near what our wildest dream, well, not dream, our wildest nightmare.
I've read about factory farms, the treatment of animals for a long time, yet I was never face to face with anything like that. And here we are, we found ourselves on this feedlot.
Right, so we checked into our room, we got changed, you got suited up, we brought Lucy a basket.
We had Kite Hill vegan cheese.
Brought some Kite Hill, and just like a lot of goodies that, you know, as a peace offering, I guess.
Yeah, I just wanted her to see some lovely food items that didn't come from animals.
And so we drive to the feedlot, and it was just like you see in the movies, a long road, like an episode of The Mentalist or something, right? I mean, like we were going to investigate a murder, and literally we were going to investigate the murder of thousands of of animals. But I don't think they do any slaughtering there on the feedlot. But
They just fatten them up.
They fatten them up. And so we drive down, and I looked at Karen because we automatically started to see some cattle, and I sensed that she was getting a little, I don't know, uneasy. It was probably a protective instinct that I've developed over the years. And I said, "Don't start crying." And what did you say?
I said, I just want those animals to know that I'm here for them, that I believe in them, and I wish that they would just break down the fences and run free.
Yes, you did. She said, "I wish they would just break down the fences and get the fuck out of here." That's basically what you said. And so, but you cleaned it up and I didn't. But it's a documentary and we can say shit like that. So anyway, we drive on this feedlot, and it's you know, maybe some of you have been to a feedlot, maybe not.
There's not a tree in sight. There's not a stick of grass in sight. It's dirt everywhere with fences around them, and then these poor animals imprisoned inside the fences. They had heifers on one side and bulls on another side. There were so many of them, and the heifers were really beautiful animals, and I had never seen cows like this before. They had a hide on them, a fur, long hair. What do you call it?
I think it was from hormones.
I think
their
it
hair
was
is supposed to be that long.
But they
I think
were
they're
beautiful.
developing shaggy cows.
They were shaggy.
Right.
Yeah.
But they were all the same size. There was no variation on what you see in the storybooks of, you know, Farmer John and his cows. One's bigger than the other. They were all they were like Frankenstein animals. They were genetically engineered animals, and this process has taken a long time.
I believe they did a lot of investing in the past year at Snyder Livestock, and they purchased a Laird truck. And this is a truck that has a mixer.
Yeah, it's a big,
large mixer.
Big mixer on. It's like a dump truck, but it's been modified with a huge mixer on the back.
And it was filled, when she showed it to us, it was filled with hay.
Yeah, we had to climb up on it, and they were filling it with hay, and then they were
which
adding...
had molasses in it, too.
They were adding the molasses.
Give it a little sweetness. And then we were brought into this small room, and it had this new micro system which enabled them to add specialty ingredients, the antibiotics, the hormones, the vitamins that they wanted to add to the animal's feed. But they were doing it so that they would add a specific amount for each head of cattle. And what was amusing to me was they were carefully rationing the amounts of these different specialty ingredients. And it was all collecting in a small vessel that they ultimately poured into this Laird truck as it was spinning with the hay and pouring these specialty ingredients in. And everything is splattering everywhere. It was getting all over us. And I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, they were carefully measuring these small amounts so that it would ultimately be sprayed recklessly. There was no way each head of cattle was getting...
Or maybe there was, but to us...
exact amount. It would just seem...
To us, it didn't seem like it...
seemed like overkill to me.
Overkill. Oh, that's grim. After we watched them mixing the feed, I was getting a little lightheaded. This was all becoming very real to me, more real than anything I've ever imagined. You know, in your wildest dreams, you think, okay, you're visiting a feedlot, it can't be that bad. It's worse, especially for someone now who has the veil lifted and is a 100% plant-based. Anyway, so I couldn't make the trip down to feed the cattle. Karen, what was that like? You climbed up on the truck.
Yeah, Lucy was very excited, and she wanted us to take a ride on this truck, which was now filled with the hay and all these specialty ingredients. And she wanted us to see how she fed the heifers. And I got on the truck along with James Taylor, the other panelist, and Lucy, And
James was the climate change skeptic, correct?
Right.
Right.
And we drove down, and there were these huge fenced-in areas, all dirt, filled with heifers. And there was a trough that went all along the fence, and as the truck came along to the trough, you could see the animals were getting ready. They were all lining up, head by head. They were pushing each other so that they could get their head into the trough. And it was ultimately this mass that neatly lined up, almost military style, how they ended up all lining up one by one. You saw a head drop, head drop, head drop, head drop, as the feed filled the trough. And Lucy explained to us that when these animals first came to her feedlot, they didn't know how this operation worked. Why? Because they had been grazing. And the animals like this, they graze all day long. They eat all day long. But now on the feedlot, they were fed twice a day.
So before they came to the feedlot, they were out grazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then they took them away from that paradise kind of environment and brought them to this concentration camp.
Now, while I was watching the heifers line up and eat, you were chatting with some people back.
Right. So there was a group of men who stayed behind, and they were all in the cattle business. And one man was talking about a certain group of cows that were as docile as house cats. He was saying to these other guys who were in the cattle business, yeah, you could go out there in the pen and stand right in the middle of them. They'll come right up to you just like a house cat and rub up against you, and they were just as calm. And you know, they're talking about them like they have this great love for them. And then the bizarre, abstract thing is they are also a part of taking their lives.
Well, you told me that one of them said the cows like to stay with each other, all huddled up close to each other, and you had said...
I said to one of the guys, oh yeah, they like to stay huddled up because they're probably scared to death. He looked at me like, you know, he was going to rip off my face. So I shut up.
I got off the truck. I was alive.
How did you feel after you got off the truck?
You know, I was in a numb state.
Right.
I didn't want to allow my emotions to take over.
You looked like you were melting, like the witch.
I'm melting.
When you got off the truck, you were standing by some mud, and I looked at you at a distance, and I just saw you, and it was like you were just shrinking.
Fading away, melting.
So then what happened?
Well, we got in a little vehicle, and we were driven around to some of the feed that they add to the animals' food.
When she was explaining the feed, I kept thinking, you can feed the world with these products. There was polenta. There was some sort of corn. You know, I called it polenta, but there was this giant pile of corn. And then next to it was a pile of almond meal or something. Some
almond hulls.
Almond hulls.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there was also some sort of other grain that they were... And I kept thinking, how insane. You can actually feed entire populations with this stuff that you're growing and processing and giving to animals to then kill the animals and feed people. Just that concept has always been told to me, but now I actually saw it and I connected the dots, and it was frightening that we were that stupid as people.
Well, what she explained to us, and again, she was very proud of what they were doing. In some ways, it was a form of reduce, reuse, recycle. There was the exterior kernel from brown rice. When brown rice is milled to become white rice, the exterior part is waste. And
but, I mean,
she uses that waste.
It's not waste because it isn't okay to eat.
Oh, it's just people choose to eat white rice.
White rice. So all of the nutritious parts of the rice are given to the cows to fatten them up, to
and then the people eat them. So they get that nutrition just a long way around.
I'm cutting that out. So now what? We went to see the bulls. So apparently what happens is they have this new system now, right? So what I remember seeing was this big pen full of these magnificent bulls and a couple of little, small, tiny little, I guess they were bull handlers or bull owners standing in the middle of the pen. And one bull was getting pretty frisky and he wanted this man's attention. And the man was talking to this other farmer was, or bull handler was talking to his friend, and this one bull kept pawing at the ground and looking at the farmer, and the farmer kept turning, looking at him, going, "What is it? What do you want?" And the bull he said, "Don't bother me now, don't bother me, I'm busy." And so the bull just sort of backed off, and I kept seeing this man communicating with this bull, and I kept saying to myself, this is insane. Why are we doing this to these animals? It's clear that they don't want to be there. It's clear that they are...
It's such an unnatural environment for them.
And I got very unhappy at that point. But apparently these bulls have a chip in their ear or something, and they go through this little fence which breaks the electric current, and they can monitor how much these bulls are eating.
All the animals are tagged with something from a company called Allflex, and it's one of these tags. It's a tag that's punched into their ear, and each one of these tags has a computer chip in it, and they can keep track of what each bull eats. And they recently installed these troughs, individual troughs, that were on scales. So they would fill it with a certain amount of feed, measure it, and then whatever bull came to that particular trough, they knew because of the chip that was in its tag, and they could determine how much feed that animal ate. And then they would compare that with what the animal weighed. And what they were ultimately looking for were the animals that gained the most weight on the least amount of food. It's all about efficiency, and they want to reduce costs in every way possible. So with antibiotics and hormones, which encourage growth, some animals respond more quickly and will grow more on less feed, and they end up breeding those animals because they want to have more animals that grow fatter on less food. And what I kept thinking when he was explaining this to me was, what happens to the people that eat these animals that are growing fatter on less food? Are the people going to grow fatter on less food? And when we came home, there was an article in the New York Times just on that subject, how indeed people are getting fatter because they are consuming these antibiotics and hormones that are encouraging growth, and it's believed to have a similar effect.
So now we're off to the hotel, the Yerington Inn, to get ready for the main event. And I remember the drive back to the hotel, I was in another world. I was just I was very depressed. And I know you probably felt the same way. Really, I mean, fearing for your life, because these guys, they're serious about this. I mean, this is their livelihood. I was starting to worry. I was legitimately starting to worry for you. And you looked a lot smaller to me than you've ever looked. I mean, you're not a big person, obviously, but you looked like you were this big, and you were about ready to walk into this room full of people who wanted to rip your head off.
Yeah, big people.
Big people. And so you had to go get in costume. I remember I couldn't leave with you because our hotel door couldn't lock. You walked across the street to the Casino Bowling Alley Conference Center on your own. And I waited for someone who never came. And then the nice Canadian gentleman who deals with the bulls is also staying in our motel. He said, "Oh, just close the door. Nobody bothers you here. We all live with our doors open around here." And so I walked across the street to find you in the convention center. And when I walked in, people were just starting to arrive. And I looked down at the very end, and then I saw your white hat among a bunch of people who weren't wearing cowboy hats. And I thought, oh, that's great. She's got a cowboy hat on. They're going to kill her because they're going to think she's making fun of them. But there were lots of cowboy hats.
There were lots of cowboy
who
hats.
later came. But I remember that was my first seeing you down there, getting introduced to the enemy, as it were.
I was very excited about talking to these people. This was a unique opportunity. I couldn't wait to be thrown out into the lion's den. When we got to the conference hall, James Taylor was there. And James Taylor's from the Heartland Institute. It's a very conservative nonprofit organization. They put out some interesting information. I think I disagree with all of it. And he was there to talk about climate change and how he believed that human activity is not influencing the climate. And he was careful to say that the climate does change, but humans are not a part of that. Now, Frank Mitloehner, I had read about a long time ago, and I was most excited to meet him and have an opportunity to speak with him and argue with him. Because Frank Mitloehner, people may remember that the Food and Agriculture Organization in 2006 put out a report, and it was called Livestock's Long Shadow. And although the focus with the Food and Agriculture Organization, which is an agency of the United Nations, and one of their goals is to eliminate hunger and eliminate food insecurity, and some of their focus is clearly animal agriculture. But they reported in 2006 that 18% of human-induced greenhouse gas emissions came from the animal agriculture sector. And a lot of vegetarians and vegans were so excited. Here was a mainstream publication that came out with a concrete number. And after that report came out, many people were reevaluating the data and saying it was less, it was more. We had the World Watch Institute put out an article with Robert Goodland and Jeff Anhang saying that it was 51% animal agriculture's contribution. There were other people saying it was 30-something and 40-something. Well, Frank Mitloehner is a livestock specialist at the UC Davis, University of California at Davis. And he came out and said it was much less than 18%. In fact, I think he was saying it was somewhere between 3 and 4%. And the Food and Agriculture Organization liked what he was saying, and they ended up inviting him to work with them on a committee. And it was very frustrating for us to learn that after being so happy that animal agriculture was finally on the map as a contributor to climate change, and now it seemed like the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization was taking a few steps backwards at the expense of the environment.
So this guy was like meeting, for you, I mean, you had read a lot about him, so this guy was meeting one of the celebrities of the opposition.
Yeah.
Right.
And Frank Mitloehner believes in animal agriculture intensification.
So this guy from Davis believes that you should do more factory farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well, it's all about efficiency. It's all about reducing
It's all
costs.
about efficiency. It's all about getting everybody as tightly in the camp as you can. Pack them in there, feed them, kill them, you know? Lucy warned you it wasn't going to be a fair and unbiased panel. Who was the guy moderating? This was the part that cracked me up.
It's going to be
this was the moderator.
An objective moderator.
Okay, the objective moderator, and he was a nice guy. They were all really, really nice guys. And Lucy, she was, you know, I mean, the first thing we saw when we walked in was Lucy's T-shirt.
Yeah, it was a PETA T-shirt, and it wasn't People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. No, it was People for Eating Tasty Animals.
Right, and on the back of the shirt, that was the first thing I saw, and I went, oh, we're not in a very we're in a very
it
unfriendly.
Wasn't very respectful, I think.
No, I think she worked for for one of the panelists.
The moderator was Darren Williams from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
Right, so this is the moderator.
The objective moderator.
Right, this is the guy that's going to be objective. And he was a very, very nice man, very respectful to Karen. I was very impressed with him. Just a great guy. I mean, they were all great.
Yeah.
The woman...
Staller Lufrano.
Staller was great. We're getting now to where Karen is meeting the panel, and I'm watching all of the room fill up with a lot of cattlemen. And this thing, you know, I was hoping maybe nobody would show up, but they all...
A lot of cattlemen and women.
They all showed up.
Also, the event organizer learned from my personal website that I am a trained opera singer who has won several international vocal competitions. In addition to giving a talk on climate change, I have been asked to sing the national anthem. Now, I've been told that the cattle ranchers are an incredibly patriotic group, and having me sing what they consider to be the most important song of the nation is a very positive opportunity, which I am hoping will open them up to listening to me and understanding my perspective.
This night before the bull sale is the big dinner that they're having. And then the following day, the big dinner, the big celebration, they gave out awards to, I guess, some of the families that have produced some of these bulls that are going to be for sale. And little girls are getting up there getting ribbons, and they're taking group pictures. It's all very festive. Karen's getting ready to sit at the big table and get up and give her talk. I asked if I could film. The only thing they let me film was the song. So before the talk, we've now got the song.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes...
How did you feel about singing the song?
Well, the lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner can be taken literally, or you can make your own interpretation. And for me, I was thinking 100% of the animals. I was thinking of their battle. I was thinking of their blood. I was thinking of their struggle. That's what was living through me when I was singing the song. And then the last two lines, or the land of the free and the home of the brave. I thought the animals should be free. This is the land of the free. All sentient beings should be free. And we need to be brave to accomplish that. I kept thinking, this is the home of the brave. We can do it.
Or the land of the free and the home of the brave.
So this is the first time at this bull sale we brought somebody all the way from New York to sing the national anthem. Thank you very much, Karen.
That's what was going through my mind when I was singing it. The audience was very receptive.
The audience was very receptive. Everybody enjoyed the song. And Lucy took the microphone away from you before the talk began, and she made a comment about you coming all the way from New York City and being an opera singer, and I thought that was a very nice compliment despite the t-shirt she was wearing. All right, so now, drum roll, everybody gives their 10 minutes, which actually was really 15, wasn't it?
We each took about 12 or 13 minutes.
And the order I remember was you didn't go first. You went for the talk.
Yeah, we had to pull straws, actually.
Right, so there was the pulling of straws by the moderator to keep things fair.
Nobody wanted to go first. And then I volunteered. I said, okay, I'll go first. But then they said, no, we want to do this fairly.
Right. So I think you went third?
Frank Mitloner went, and then I don't remember.
Anyway, you were in the middle somewhere. And here's where I think you delivered the most brilliant opening that someone in your position could ever deliver to a group of people ready to attack you at the first line that you mentioned for your talk. But you disarmed them.
I just wanted to be honest. Genuine,
so
honest.
Here you are in a room full of 250 cattlemen and women, producers of cattle and bulls, and what do you say?
Well, I told them that I didn't believe in killing animals. I said I'm a vegan. I don't believe in killing animals. You're not going to like what I have to say. But actually, before I said that, I said we have a lot in common. We all want clean air to breathe. We all want clean water to drink. And we all want healthy, nutritious food for ourselves and for our families. And we all share those desires. And we all want to make this world a better place.
You put everybody in the same boat, as it were.
Because it's true.
Right.
And then I said, but I'm a vegan and I don't believe in killing animals.
You said, I'm a vegan, and I became a vegan because I don't believe in killing animals.
And I don't believe in killing anything.
And I don't believe in killing anything. Thou shalt not kill is basically what you were saying to this room full of Christians.
Right. Thou shalt not kill.
A little Jew from New York.
Okay, I am an atheist-leaning agnostic.
Right. I like that. And you know, there was this over the crowd, this and you know, everyone in that room, you hit their collective subconscious with that.
Yeah.
Which is, we all don't want to kill anything.
Right.
We all don't believe in killing. And you set that up brilliantly. Nice job.
Thank you.
And nice job, teriyaki. Which is actually a take on kimosabi. Same amount of syllables. Because someone came up to me and said, why did you call her teriyaki? Oh, because of the tofu thing? No. Because kimosabe, teriyaki.
Now that's a teriyaki with all vegan ingredients, of course.
Well, it's tofu teriyaki. Of course. All right, so
Okay.
you open with that. Just perfect. Nice job.
I had very little time to explain something really complicated and then sum it all up with what my solutions are.
So the vegan perspective on climate change. Go.
Right.
Give me
So
60.
first I wanted to give a very brief, very simple overview of climate change, and I decided to discuss the carbon cycle, and I wanted to focus on carbon dioxide and methane gas, two greenhouse gases. And I talked about how originally the Earth, well, not originally, but
Originally, the Earth.
I talked about how the Earth at one time was covered in forests, and there was a balance between the carbon dioxide that the trees and all the plant life would take in and bring down through their root system into the ground, into the soil, ultimately sequestering all of this carbon into the ground. And at the same time, they would give off oxygen. We would breathe the oxygen. It was beautiful harmony. And there were few people on the planet, a certain number of animals, and a lot of forests. And I showed some simple pictures how the world has changed dramatically because we've cut down about half of those old growth forests that once covered the planet. And in its place, we have factories and skyscrapers and homes and cars and trucks and all kinds of things that are putting out carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, because what we're doing is we're digging deep into the earth, we're pulling out fossil fuels, burning them, and they're giving off all of these greenhouse gases and putting them out into the atmosphere. Things are totally out of balance. So the first problem, yes, is the burning of fossil fuels for energy. This is the number one problem, no question about it. There are reports that say that it'll take 20 years and trillions of dollars to get a clean energy infrastructure using solar and wind and other energy sources that are sustainable and renewable. It takes a long time and a lot of money to get this going. And we may not have that time. Some people think we've reached a tipping point already where there's no return, that the climate has warmed significantly and it's like falling dominoes and we can't change it. There are some that think the tipping point is close, and then there are some that think we'll never attain it. But if we want to make changes today, what can we do? And that's where I said what we need to do is eat less animals and eat more plants. And there's a lot of reasons behind this. I tried to say it very simply and very quickly. Beef is the #1 source of methane gas out of animal agriculture, and methane gas is a powerful greenhouse gas. It heats up the environment much more quickly than carbon dioxide. It doesn't stay in the atmosphere as long, and that's a good thing, because if we reduce the amount of methane gas we were putting in the atmosphere, we'd have an opportunity to mitigate climate change quickly and give us time in order to get that clean energy infrastructure in place. I am absolutely confident that we can have cleaner factories and modes of transportation that don't pollute the environment. But how many of us can afford to buy a new car today, even if that technology existed? How many companies can afford to completely retrofit their factories with using renewable sources, sustainable sources of clean energy? It's a complicated problem. I know we'll get there. We need time. So animal agriculture, I am convinced, is a significant contributor to climate change, and I don't think it's 3 or 4% like Frank Mitloehner says. I'm not going to even say what percentage it is. I think it's significant, but it's not just climate change. And I wanted these people to understand that you cannot just look at one thing. You can't just look at how many greenhouse gases a particular industry is putting out. Animal agriculture pollutes the air, it pollutes the water, it uses up too much water, it affects biodiversity, it degrades the environment, and people eating animal protein, it's devastating to our health. Now for me, bottom line is it's horrifically cruel to animals. That's what's most important to me. But you have to talk about many, many things in order to get the message across to people. So in the limited amount of time I try to go bang, 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 all of these issues.
You made your case the moment you hit the floor.
You know, as a scientist, you have to evaluate all the alternatives. So it looked like the alternatives that these people were considering were either animal agriculture intensification or humane animal agriculture, where animals are allowed to graze freely, free range, and unfortunately, the understanding is that animal agriculture intensification is more efficient and puts out less greenhouse gases than grazing cattle. And most people don't realize that. People that are concerned about the treatment of animals, people that are more concerned about animal welfare, people that want to eat animals but don't want them to be treated the way they are in these factories or in these intensification situations. They want to buy their beef, they want to buy their pork, they want to buy their chicken when it's fed with organic materials and the animals are allowed to roam freely. What they don't realize is that puts out more greenhouse gas. So it's not.
So the point that you made is go vegan.
Well, the point I made exactly is that here's one alternative, here's another alternative, but the best alternative, the one that's gentlest on the environment, the one that puts out negligible greenhouse gases, is organic plant food production.
The stuff you're feeding the animals.
And, okay, growing plants industrially is better than growing animals for food. But the best way is organic plant production. because industrial plant production does require petrochemical-based fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides, and all of that is taking more fossil fuels out of the ground and
so the question is, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to make this is our livelihood, you know? What if everybody goes vegan? What are we supposed to do? And you actually gave them, what did you tell them at the end of your talk? What did you talk to them about?
Well, I wanted them to realize, because although I like to think it's all about food, it's also all about money.
It's all about money, yeah.
And they were concerned about their livelihoods. And this business that they've been in for generations. The grandparents have passed it on to the parents who are passing it on to their children. It's been in there for generations. And they can't imagine doing anything else. And it's scary. So I wanted them to know what their competition was. And
right.
I talked about two companies that are really making headway and have very clever marketing schemes that are going to succeed. And I told them quickly about Beyond Meat and Beyond Eggs. And both of these companies are, Beyond Eggs, for example, wants to create an egg-like product out of plant materials.
They have, right? They
have.
They don't want to. They've succeeded.
Yes. And they've simply removed the animal from the production. They've removed the animal from the equation. And they use plant materials. They make something that can be used in industrial food manufacturing.
Right.
And they can use it for fast food, processed food, and they do it cheaper. And that's the bottom line. Because if you can get the same end product, something that tastes the same or better, that's actually better for you, and cheaper, that's where you succeed. That's where you make the difference. And Beyond Meat is doing the same thing with their product. They're removing the animal, but they're making the same meat, only they're using plant materials.
With respect to Beyond Meat, there was a recent program, I think it was
the Today Show.
Today Show, where they actually did a blind test, and all of the panelists picked the Beyond Meat product.
Yeah, they thought the Beyond Meat was the the animal meat product.
Of course, there are going to be some people out there, and I think you can support this statement that I'm about to make with the statement that Frank Mitloehner said about the people want their meat, that even if they have these products that taste just like meat but aren't meat, psychologically people are going to still want meat.
Yeah, it seems kind of crazy where if we could grow plants to feed people, not put out any greenhouse gas emissions, not use up our water supply,
not drain the aquifers,
not pollute the air,
right.
Not cause terrific cruelty to animals, create a food product that's actually healthier for us, boosts our immune system rather than giving us chronic diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, etc., etc.
Extended our life.
It's like a no-brainer to me. But as Frank explained it, he said, Americans want their beef. Americans want their animal protein. And they should be able to have it.
Well, apparently not just Americans, but now even the Chinese who used to live on pretty much a plant-based diet, maybe a little fish.
But it seemed like a very emotional, irrational kind of comment.
Everybody wants their meat.
And we should have it. We should just have it. Because
right. I remember he got pretty cranky about that.
Yeah.
Which sort of shut everybody else down who didn't want it, namely you and I.
This land is not sustainable for raising cattle, but they think it is.
You'll get an argument from them.
They had other questions for the panel and for me.
They seem to be picking on you because I think you really got to them. I mean, they were like, oh yeah, these other guys are great. I mean, we've already heard this. They were preaching to the choir, and you weren't, which is really cool, is because you left an environment of preaching to the choir and you went into an environment where you saw people preaching to their choir, and then there you were telling them something completely different.
It was very clear to me that in this world of so much information, we have access to so much information now with the internet. You could find out about anything in a split second. It's clear to me that people aren't getting the information that they need. One of the questions was if we were all to go vegan.
Right.
And of course you heard different chuckles and groans,
a lot of chuckles,
snorts and things from the audience. If we were all to go vegan, would we be able to grow enough kale and spinach, leafy green vegetables for all of us to eat? And I mean, these people don't realize that they're growing so many plants to feed their animals, to feed people. They don't realize how inefficient that is. They don't realize that we would need to grow significantly less plants to feed people directly. That yes, we can grow whatever we need to grow to feed the planet,
well,
with great nutrition.
70 billion land animals a year are slaughtered to feed people. And how many people live in the world?
7 billion.
So I think we could grow enough to feed people.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so after your talk, you had people come up to you.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see the look in their eyes. I really felt like they heard me. I felt I got through to some of them.
Who were a couple of the people that came up to talk to you?
Well, there was one woman who came up to me and she wanted to know where God fit into this. And I told her that I thought the universe was a very mysterious, magical place. And there was too much going on that I was not capable of understanding. I said, you know, we only have 5 senses, and I'm sure there are other dimensions out there that we can't even perceive because we don't have the senses for them. We don't have the intelligence to understand the majesty, the grandeur, the mysteries that go on in the universe. But one thing was clear to me: thou shalt not kill. And we shouldn't be causing pain and suffering. And that means not eating animals. And she thought, but, and you've heard this many times, but God gave us dominion over animals. And I told her, well, that doesn't mean that we should be torturing them, exploiting them. We should be nurturing them and caring for them, not eating them. She was shaken.
And then a veterinarian came into your...
Yeah, and it's an odd thing. I always thought that doctors, whether they were doctors for humans or doctors for non-human animals, wanted to care for their patients.
I think there's something called the Hippocratic Oath.
Do no harm.
Do no harm, yeah.
And yet there are many veterinarians that are just there to keep the animal alive until it's time to slaughter it for food.
Right.
And this woman was a veterinarian, and she came up to me and thanked me for coming. A lot of people came up and thanked me for coming, and they were very appreciative that I was willing to come and speak to them. And they told me, I heard this so many times, that they said I had more balls than anyone, even their bulls.
You had more balls than the bulls that were about to be sold the next day. And we opted out to go to the bull sale, which I thought was pretty classic of us.
Well, our feedlot experience was enough.
All right, so afterwards, we left. We went across the street. Oh, we went into the casino and we had a little beer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had to relax after that.
Yeah, and clicked your heels together 3 times.
I clicked my cowboy boots together 3 times.
Right, and the whole thing went in reverse.
I became a vegetarian a long time ago because I don't believe in killing. I don't believe in killing animals. I don't believe in killing anything. And I explain that to these people. the wonderful thing is I really believe that we communicated. And it's important for all of us to communicate to everyone. We cannot just be preaching to the choir and talking to vegetarians. We have to be sharing our message with everyone. And these cattle producers, after my talk, they told me I had more bulls than the bulls that they were selling the following day. But they were very grateful that I was there, because they wanted to have this communication, they wanted to have this conversation. And I'm not sure how far I got to these people, but I saw something in their eyes, and I saw a connection, and I really think there's a lot of hope in changing the world. But the problem is the economy is a big piece of it. A lot of these people that have these ranches, they don't know what else they can do with their land and their livelihood, and we all need to be helping each other figure out how we move forward to a better place economically, environmentally, and healthfully. And I'm going to wrap it up with that. So visit me at responsibleeatingandliving.com. Thanks for living, and thanks for being here.
And once we got back to New York, how did you feel? Did you feel like it even happened?
Okay, when we got home, I was glad to be home because I was alive. They didn't kill us. And not only that, they liked me. They liked me.
Sally Fields. They liked me.
They liked me. And I got a lovely note from Lucy. Can I read it?
I think that's a great way to end this. Yeah, read Lucy's note. I like that.
Okay.
She gave you a card.
Yeah, Bulls for the 21st century. Thank you. She writes, Dear Karen, thank you for being part of my panel discussion on climate change. I had many compliments on how interesting the panel discussion was. Many said it was our best bull buyers seminar in years. It is easy to speak to people who agree with you. Even the most crusty conservative rancher in the room agreed that you showed a lot of courage. Being a cowboy, he used a different and more anatomical term. By coming and speaking to a room full of ranchers. Thanks so much. You are a great presenter and a dynamic speaker. And thanks for a beautiful job with our national anthem. Regards, Lucy.
The lone vegan and tofu will now ride off into the sunset. Until next time on Tea in 3C with Karen Hartglass and
Gary DiMattei.
So Karen, you just went and crushed it at this bull sale tonight. The night before a bull sale. How do you feel?
Well, I feel it went really well, but at the same time, the truth is that 70 billion land animals a year are killed for food. I don't know if there's a way to get people to see the light, that we don't need to eat animals. I did my best tonight. And I think I made some connections. But it's tough because these people make their living this way. Even if they did get what I was saying, it would take a tremendous amount of courage to change.
Speaking of change, do you have any change in your pocket? I want to go play a slot machine. You did great, Karen. I was there, I saw it. But you were fabulous, and you really, of course, none of those cattlemen are going to agree with you, but they all want to date you. So, congratulations. And that beer is vegan, of course, right?
And I hope so.
Nice job, Karen. The lone vegan rides off into the sunset.